NEPM's podcasts are funded by Armbrook Village, offering research-based arts, music, fitness, and lifelong learning programs at their assisted living and Alzheimer's care community in Westfield. armbrookvillage.com.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, homegrown horror for your spooky month when we chat with Wade Wofford of Chicopee TV and Singing Bridge Pictures about the upcoming premiere for their horror short, Vestiges.
And Bombyx is preparing to host a week-long residency for pianist, percussionist, composer Omar Sosa that will start with the showing of the documentary about his work and life, 88 Well-Tuned Drums. We'll be joined by Omar Sosa and Soren Sorenson, director of the film.
But first, times of trouble and tumult on Capitol Hill and beyond.
I met, I guess, a friend or a fan of yours yesterday, David Sokol. Do you know him?
I know him very well. Do you know him? He used to be like the music writer for the Valley Advocates. So in the Advocates' heyday, he was like at every big show that was in the Valley. He's been like a mentor to me. And his son was my intern at the River and then worked for us for many, many years. So I love the whole family.
No, we had a good meeting. We had a good meeting yesterday. It was really kind of touching. He actually, he used to play in a band. And it was the opening act for George McGovern at a rally near Boston in 1972. And McGovern's microphone, when he got on stage, didn't work. And so he gave McGovern his microphone that worked, and at the end they told him to take this big President McGovern poster, which he has kept for many, many years, and it's been he's on his dorm wall and on his house, and anyway, it's been taped together and stuff like that. And he came and gave it to me yesterday, which was really, really touching. So
that's great, because McGovern was George McGovern, no relation, was one of your mentors, right?
Yeah. I mean, I worked for him for years in the Senate, and then very, very close. Did the eulogy at his funeral, so it was really nice of him.
Maybe we can get David Sokol and his new band to open up for
we should.
A Congressman
but
McGovern.
really, he and his wife came by. They're both sweet, really wonderful people.
They sure are. Time for our weekly chat with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern from the 2nd Congressional District of Massachusetts. McGoverning with McGovern. The really sad and harrowing news that everybody's receiving since yesterday evening has to do with Hurricane Milton. The AP saying Milton made landfall along Florida's Gulf Coast as a Category 3 storm. The country is still reeling after the effects of Hurricane Helene. There's a lot of misinformation going on about what FEMA is or isn't doing in response to these storms. You've got Florida representatives like Matt Gaetz writing on social media that he wishes taxpayer dollars would be spent in the South like they're being spent in places like Ukraine, and then voting against a bill that would have supported that sort of thing. You've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who doesn't believe in human-caused climate change, but does believe that, quote, they are controlling the weather. Who they is one of the loudest dog whistles I've ever heard. See Jewish space lasers. Happy High Holy Days, by the way. Congress, however, is not in session. Will Congress come back before the election to respond to these disasters? And when they do you anticipate there would be bipartisan support?
Well, first of all, our hearts go out to those who have suffered as a result of these hurricanes that have hit the South. And we need to do everything we can to help aid people in the immediate term, and we need to help these communities rebuild. The number of storms, the intensities of storms, quite frankly, are beyond what we usually get. There's going to be a need for additional funds. There are funds right now that will continue to help with all these efforts. But quite frankly, the Speaker of the House should call Congress back now. I mean, now before the election, and we could do this in a day and pass the necessary funding, send it over to the Senate, and get this done so no one has to worry about it. Because here's what I fear. You mentioned Matt Gaetz. This is a guy who, I mean, these people have no shame. They get up and they complain about, this FEMA's not doing enough, and then they vote against funding for FEMA. Well, who knows how they will react if they lose the House, if Kamala Harris wins the presidency. I mean, these aren't rational people. They very well may just hold things up because they will still maintain the majority until the next Congress. So they can hold things out, drag things out, and the people who will be adversely impacted are the people who have been hit by this hurricane. So the Speaker should call us back now. Let's get this done. Let's show the nation that we can come together on something. I think that would be reassuring, but also it is necessary to make sure we're doing right by the people who have been hit the hardest.
A certain co-host of a certain Western Mass radio show based at NEPM called The Fabulous 413 was observing the vice presidential debate last week, which starred J.D. Vance, who's a senator, a member of Congress, and in her estimation, not understanding what the role of Congress is versus what the role of the executive branch is. How do you navigate through this type of political grandstanding and almost a shell game about the responsibilities of who's responsible for what when it comes to emergencies and disasters like this?
I mean, one is we have to constantly correct the record. No money has been diverted from emergency relief to go to migrants. That's just a big lie. But the other thing, and this is, right at this moment is particularly dangerous, is they're pushing out kind of lies that, well, if you call FEMA, they'll seize your home. And so there's a concern that people who, quite frankly, are eligible for assistance right now are not calling because they're believing this nonsense that is being put out there by the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, I think she thinks there's a weather machine that Joe Biden is controlling where he can force hurricanes to hit certain parts of the country. This is nuts. And unfortunately, we have mainstream media outlets that repeat what these people are saying. I mean, I've been at a number of events in the last few days, and people ask me questions about, why isn't FEMA helping people? And stuff. They are. Thousands of people are deployed. They're doing an incredible job. I also get asked, what am I going to do about migrants who are stealing our pets and eating them? I mean, this is nuts. If you or I said a tenth of what Donald Trump says, we'd be canceled. I'll lose my election. Just because it's Donald Trump, we can't say it's okay. This stuff is nuts, and it's dangerous. And we have to constantly correct the record.
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, McGoverning with McGovern, there have continued to be large protests in front of L3, one of the weapons manufacturers based in Northampton in your district. So the war in Gaza is something that affects us here in Western Massachusetts, and we've talked extensively about it over the last year since the October 7th attack. This from the Huffington Post, quote, "The failure of the United States to consistently apply our own laws actively endangers the lives of U.S. citizens," Representative Jim McGovern, Democrat from Massachusetts, said. And 4 colleagues argue in a letter that they sent to the Pentagon and the State Department this week and have exclusively shared with the Huffington Post. This is about the Leahy law. There is also an Axios article saying that President Biden hasn't spoken to Netanyahu since the end of August. Are we absent a leader in dangerous times? And what has the White House response been to you and only 4 other members of Congress's protestation that we're not using our own laws to try to help the situation in Gaza?
Well, first, I believe the president did speak to Netanyahu yesterday,
okay.
And I'm not sure it was a particularly satisfying conversation, but I do know that they did talk. I mean, they should be talking every day given our involvement in all of this. But look, here's the deal. We have laws on the books, and one of them is the Leahy law. It says that if a military unit is committing human rights crimes, then the U.S. must suspend all aid to that unit until there is a thorough investigation, either proving or disproving what the allegations are. There are a number of Israeli military units that are on that list, and they're getting a free pass. And what we're simply saying is we have laws for a reason. Follow the law. Human rights are human rights, and laws are laws. And it doesn't matter what your view is on this conflict. The bottom line is you should want all those who receive our aid to make sure that they are adhering to the basic standards of respecting human rights. If they're not, U.S. taxpayer dollars should not be going to them. It's really that simple. And if you want to make exemptions to the Leahy law, then bring an amendment to the floor to repeal the Leahy law. But don't pass laws that are very specific and don't apply them to people because you don't want to, any political fallout. There are other laws too. I mean, when people talk about we need to pass a new law, we have laws on the books. The issue is, are we following them? I would argue with you, and I said this last night to a group in Northampton, we certainly believe that the security of Israel ought to be ensured. And if you are a friend of Israel, you should be supportive of efforts to enforce laws like the Leahy law, because if you're a friend and you're doing something self-destructive, if you're doing something that's hurting you, and I don't say anything to you, then I'm not much of a friend, period, right? But in addition, what is happening right now in southern Lebanon is horrifying. Yeah, I get it. Hezbollah are bad people in terms of the fact that they constantly are lobbing bombs at Israel, but the civilian casualties, the intensity of the bombardment, 1 million refugees. And then we get to Gaza where there's over 40,000 people dead. And then we go to the West Bank, which is totally out of control, which doesn't get very much attention. And now we're concerned about what is Israel's retaliation going to be with regard to Iran. And is this war spiraling out of control? And if it does spiral out of control, does that mean the U.S. gets sucked into this more directly? So we should be pushing a ceasefire. We should be pushing humanitarian aid to those in Gaza. We should be pushing Hamas to release all of the Israeli and American hostages, and we should be focused on what is a long-term solution here that ensures Israel's security and gives the Palestinians their own state that they can control, free of occupation, and where there's a future.
We've mentioned many times on this show, and I've been a conduit for the groups like Demilitarize Western Massachusetts and folks that have been pushing you very hard. If it wasn't for the folks like Demilitarize pushing you so hard, would you have been part of this letter that was sent to the Huffington Post, that was sent to the White House? And is this what's missing across the country to get their representatives more activated on trying to do something, even obey our own U.S. laws on an issue like this?
Well, let me say, I love everybody, okay? But if you're asking my honest analysis of like what is one of the problems here, is we're not talking to one another, right? I mean, both sides on this issue are not talking. I mean, we are shouting at each other. And I worry that we fail to appreciate the humanity of each side, right? I mean, if a child is killed in Israel, those parents grieve just like if a child is killed in Gaza or in Lebanon or in the United States or anywhere else. And when we start to refer to the other side in ways that don't acknowledge them as humans, and by the way, I've got emails and letters from people on both sides of this issue, those who say that they support Netanyahu, who characterize the Palestinians as subhuman, as animals. And I have letters and texts from people who say that they are supporting the Palestinian cause, who kind of refer to all Israelis, in the same negative tone. If that's how we are approaching this, then we're not going to try to find ways to get to common ground and solve this. The focus ought to be on protecting civilians, no matter where they are. And we have to also be mindful. I was talking to some students at Smith College last night too. We were talking about kind of how difficult it is for some students to feel that they can speak out candidly on this stuff. But we have to worry about the side effects. When you don't recognize the other's humanity, then you end up saying things that make it uncomfortable for people to even express their opinion. So we need to figure out how we can persuade more members of Congress. At the end of the day, Congress needs to be the one that changes this policy. Several months ago, we had a vote on weapons sale to Netanyahu. There were two of us in the entire delegation, Ayanna Pressley and myself, who voted not to send any more weapons to Netanyahu. I wonder if that vote were held today, would there be more than two? And if there's not, I think we have to ask ourselves, how do we better persuade and influence members of our own delegation to rethink this?
Speaking with U.S. Congressman Jim McGovern, I know, Congressman, you took up Representative Jamie Raskin's challenge during Banned Books Week, which was over the last week or so, and you read The Life of Rosa Parks by Kathleen Connors. What was it in that book that you feel like was deserving for that book to have been banned by folks that are keeping books like this on banned books lists?
I mean, nothing. And this was a book that was banned in a school district in Florida. Somebody thought it was too radical. Look, if you don't like a book, don't read it. But banning books in school libraries and public libraries, decisions being made based on politics, because you got somebody on the school board who doesn't believe that young people should learn about the civil rights struggle or about the struggle for the LGBTQ community to be able to win their rights or women's rights or whatever. We have to call this out. So Jamie said, you know what, let's show people what, in fact, the right wing is doing. Let's read the books that they find so controversial. And I read a very good book on Rosa Parks. I'm a big fan of Rosa Parks. I have a poster in my office in Worcester with one of her famous quotes, which was "no," when she was asked to go to the back of the bus.
That's an easy quote to remember. But
this is a moment for all of us to stand up and push back. And I get it. It's exhausting. And you turn on the news, there's so much that's happening that is disturbing. But this is a time for good people to stand up and to say enough. We need to reclaim this country. We need to reclaim our values. And we need to say no to bigots and to people who are trying to move us in the wrong direction.
Well, one way to get involved is to get more involved in the community that you live. And just the other day, the Food Bank of Western Mass opened up signups for the 15th March for the Food Bank, which will happen November 25th and 26th, the Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. I'll be going all the way from Springfield to Greenfield, pushing a shopping cart. Congressman McGovern has joined us, I think, for 10 of those last 15 years or something along those lines. So if that's something that you want to do in a way that you want to get actively involved and talk to people of all different stripes as you walk through the beautiful hills and valleys byways and highways of Western Massachusetts, you can go to foodbankwma.org. And, Congressman, we're going to be off next week, but the week after, we're going to welcome your challenger, the independent Cornelius Shea, onto the show. So we'll see what his take is on a lot of these issues, and I'm going to challenge him to come and be on the Food Bank March with us, win or lose in November.
Are you trying to get me off the march? Or I was trying to figure out what you're...
No, you're welcome, win or lose too, Congressman.
I should tell you, I did a town hall meeting last night in Northampton that the Progressive Democrats of America, PDA, sponsored, and a number of people who were in the audience said that they were going to participate, not for the 43 miles and, not for the full 2 days, but for part of it. What people are looking forward to is doing something good for the community. This is real.
And hey, if the Progressive Democrats are going to gather a group together, if you're listening and you're a Republican and you don't think the government should have any say in helping people out, I don't believe you're such a bad person that you want people to go hungry. You should be coming and raising more money for the food bank. So come on, we'll take all comers, and you can check it out at foodbankwma.org.
And if you're a MAGA Republican, I'm trapped with you for 43 miles, so you can tell me how bad I am on everything. So if that's an incentive to get you to come and give a lot of money, I'm willing to listen to you for 2 days.
And you can find out more information from the Food Bank's website. You can send your questions for the Congressman to me, and I'll ask them on your behalf at thefab413@nepm.org. Thanks as always, Congressman.
All the best. Thanks.
Because registration opened this week for the march,
yes,
right?
this past Tuesday. To sign up now.
On the way, a frightening bit of film made in the heart of Chicopee with the newly minted Singing Bridge Pictures.
But first, we'll delight in getting to know Omar Sosa a little better before he begins his residency at Bombyx on October 21st.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Greenfield Savings Bank, providing residential lending advice for homeowners looking to refinance or start home improvements. GSB's residential lenders are here to help navigate all lending options. Find more information at greenfieldsavings.com or at 413-775-8200. Greenfield Savings Bank, member FDIC, DIF, equal housing lender, NMLS 409187.
Omar Sosa.
He has his own style.
Many things.
Totally unique. More of a conceptualist.
Jazz. I'm not a jazz player. Electronic.
Future.
Cubania.
Africania.
Afro-Cuban.
Post-classical.
Indian.
Citizen of the world.
Special person.
The documentary is awesome.
It is really.
Oh my God.
You got to see it? I didn't even know you got to see it.
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it.
I don't remember a time in recent memory where I saw a documentary and I was like so amped up to like go see or experience the music of this person.
Right.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. And I see Omar has just jumped on.
Yes.
Hello, how you doing?
All right, how are you?
You're the person we're so amped up to go see.
Really hot here. We're still in the summer. Let me close the window.
I feel like, especially after seeing this documentary, that we should apologize for what you're going to be coming to New England into. But like, you've been to Boston before. You kind of know.
Yeah, there was that scene in the movie where you left so that you didn't have to deal with it. Where are you now, Omar?
And Bari, south of Italy.
Body.
South of Italy. Oh, cool.
Really hot.
We turned on the heat today, Omar, so it's not hot here anymore.
I need to find a friend.
Okay. And where are you, Soren? Are you in Worcester or?
In Cranston, Rhode Island, right outside
Cranston.
of Providence. Really close to Providence, right over the line, sort of. And looking forward to being in Northampton again. I love it there.
I love Providence too, though. It's a fun city.
It's great.
It's a
yeah,
lot
I love
different than when I was
Providence
a
as
kid. It would be like if you want to go watch the mafia kill somebody, you go to Providence.
That is not.
Oh, it was when I was a kid. A Federal Hill, like people were getting whacked there all the time.
Talking about mafia, atención.
Oh yeah, and there you are in Italy, Omar.
Actually, in Italy too. Yeah,
Omar
I love it.
has
I love
a
it.
fan that says, and I will bleep this out. It's hot, which is
Wonderful.
A fan
Wonderful.
that you wave in your face. I love that.
Class act.
In 2008, Cuban pianist and percussionist Omar Sosa and ethnomusicologist and multi-instrumentalist from here in the Valley, Tim Eriksen, recorded an album live at the Blue Note Jazz Club in New York City entitled Across the Divide.
Released in March of 2009 on the club's Half Note Records, the album received a Grammy nomination for Best Contemporary World Music Album and a Latin Grammy nomination for Best Instrumental Album.
Omar Sosa and Tim Eriksen will embark on a new collection collaboration this month at Bombyx Center for Arts and Equity here in Florence, culminating in the world premiere of their quartet Atlantica, featuring New York City-based artists Marvin Sewell on guitar and Amari Acosta on drums.
The residency at Bombyx will conclude with a concert on Friday, October 25th. The concerts will feature all new material curated and composed by Omar Sosa and our friend Tim Eriksen.
During the week-long residency, Omar and Tim will also host a sound bath at Bombyx on Wednesday, October 23rd. The evening will begin with Eriksen leading attendees in four-part harmony shape notes singing. The audience will then be invited to listen deeply as Eriksen and Sosa explore the sonic histories and geographies of their work.
Bombyx will also present 2 screenings of the award-winning documentary Omar Sosa's 88 Well-Tuned Drums. One will be at Bombyx on Monday, October 21st, and one will be at Holyoke Media on Tuesday, October 22nd. Both screenings will be followed by a talkback with Sosa and the film's director, Soren Sorenson.
And we are joined right now by Omar Sosa and Soren Sorenson. Thank you both for joining us.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
You're going to be here for a week, which is just like, it is such a gift.
If what we say here tantalizes you to watch Soren's documentary will certainly tantalize you to want to go see the performance. The documentary is called Omar Sosa's 88 Well-Tuned Drums. That number 88 may stick out to you as another reference to a different type of instrument called the piano. But the way that you play the piano, it is a percussion instrument, as many people believe it should be considered all the time. Tell us about your interpretation of what the piano means to you and why this title is something that Soren decided to ascribe to your style of playing.
Well, first, I would like to say thank you again to Soren for this documentary. In a way, express who I am as a percussion player who loves to play piano. The title of the documentary came out because I was telling Soren one time, I'm a percussion player. I'm a percussion player who loves to play piano. And the way I play the piano is like the well-tuned drum. I never studied piano. Unfortunately, now it's too late to come back to the percussion. But at least the way I play the instrument is like I have 88 congas or marimba, vibraphone, because when I study, my dream was to play marimba and vibraphone. But in Cuba, by that time, it was almost impossible. When I started in the school, we have only 3 in the school, maybe 4 in the whole entire island.
Whoa.
And I say, I look around, I say, I need to find a way to survive. So basically, I always find piano, completed out of tune, but piano. And with a friend of mine, Lazarito Valdez, who now lives in Miami. He's the director of one famous dance Cuban band called Bamboleo. We start playing together. He played percussion, I played piano, and we did this kind of jamming for 1 year every day. After that, I say, well, man, sound like I like to play the piano. But after 1 year, the point is go out and play with somebody was another thing. But the piano for me is the only way I can heal in myself when I'm down, when I'm depressed, or even when I like to say something. I don't find the words to say. I just go to the piano, and thanks to the spirit and light and the ancestors, they tell through me with the piano what they like to say. In the piano, you have the whole orchestra. I love to play the piano, but I love to play percussion too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like they're so intertwined in your work. Like in the documentary, there is this improvisational back and forth between Shota Gupta and yourself, and it's
Trilak Gertu.
Trilak Gertu, thank you. And the amazing thing about it is that like it's super fast, it's all like vocal, but like when it comes back to you, there are all these extra tones put in.
What happened with Trilok, by the way, I was talking to him a few minutes ago because we have a concert in Italy in 3 days. So what happened with Trilok, he's one of my heroes, he's one of my masters, and play with the Indian musicians. It's not easy. It's beautiful, but not easy. Why? Because they count everything. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. But in Cuba, we have a different way. It's all about clave. Pa, 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 pa. So the first time we did this trader, I was completely lost. I say, hey man, what am I supposed to do? Like a good teacher, he told me, be yourself. I say, okay. So in that way, so you're going to do it your Indian style, and I'm going to reproduce what I feel based on the clave. I don't know if you get it. You get it?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is why when you listen, after that, what I do is basically we call it quinteo in the congas. So when we did this, he said, well, it's not bad. I said, well, that's the only thing I can do because I cannot go to your Indian dimension count. But if you see in the video, or actually every time we do, he count. But I don't count. I see his hands, but I don't count. I simply keep the clave inside of me to try to answer what he say. It's kind of cool because now I learn a little bit of this little raga. Beautiful. For me, it's kind of beautiful. But we do the same thing in the conga. Pa kung pa pa kung kung pa ata pa pa kung kung pa baking a boom boom. But all this is go with the class. Anyway, I explain a little bit.
That's such a fun part of the documentary, and we're speaking with Omar Sosa, who's currently in Italy, but will be in Florence, the other Florence, Massachusetts, coming up later this month. There will be a concert on Friday, October 25th, but Omar will be there in residency, and in conjunction with the residency, there will be a screening of this documentary, 88 Well-Tuned Drums, that we keep talking about, on Monday, October 21st, at Bombyx in Florence, and also on Tuesday, October 22nd at Holyoke Media, and the documentary filmmaker behind this incredible documentary joins us as well, Soren Sorenson. Soren, what put Omar on your radar and tipped you off to him being a great subject for a documentary, which, well done, because he is a great subject for a documentary.
Well, thanks very much. We have to go back a ways. In 2010, I was working for a small arts and culture publication in Providence, Rhode Island, called Tribe Magazine. My boss, the editor-in-chief, essentially was Tony Aguilar, and he gave me a stack of CDs, what you could, kind of broadly refer to as world music, although I don't really love that term. I don't think Omar does either.
We don't either.
We don't either. There's got to be a better way to describe
But a lot of different kinds of music, and one of Omar's records was in there. For whatever reason, at the time, the music spoke to me, and I loved it, and I hadn't heard of him before. I hadn't heard him play before. So I was able to get in touch with his manager, Scott Price, who co-produced the documentary and has been instrumental in getting it made. No pun intended.
None taken.
But when I reached out to Scott thinking I might be able to get a quote or have a quick conversation or something, he put Omar and I in touch on Skype, which is what we had before Zoom. Omar and I ended up talking for 55 minutes or an hour or something like that. I remember it was nighttime. He was in Barcelona, and he was he said, I got to go put my kids to bed. It was like we spoke for pushing an hour, and it turned out even though I grew up in Connecticut and he grew up in Cuba and he's 10 years older than I am. Sorry, Omar. That we had a lot in common in terms of musical taste and kind of openness to different concepts and wanting to hear people's stories and wanting to tell people's stories and connecting in that way. It's pretty obvious when talking to him that he's a good character for a film. I mean, documentary, just because you're making something that's quote unquote nonfiction or ostensibly nonfiction or journalistic, you still have to have decent characters and a good story if you're making a film like this. So if I can't make a film out of this, I have no business being a filmmaker.
More with composer and musician Omar Sosa and filmmaker Soren Sorenson as we examine the use of animation in the documentary about his life, 88 Well-Tuned Drums, and Omar's collaboration with local ethnomusicologist Tim Eriksen.
And we'll check out a homegrown and horrific new film short with the director of Vestiges, Wade Wofford.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
This mix of traditional elements.
These different musical threads.
Paz. The armonía.
Maybe something there.
Progressive from the beginning.
I never know what he's going to come with next.
Like, wow, man, he's too much.
I think that you need to create a box, and the box says Omar.
It's Omar music.
And by the way, I can't take credit for the title. That was actually a story called Swing of a Black Planet. It was 2004, Eugene Holly Jr. writing in The Voice during Black History Month. And so that's actually, I cribbed the title from Eugene with his permission. And in fact, Eugene wrote the essay that appears on the back of the LP soundtrack for the film, which will hopefully be available at the residency.
Ooh, yay!
And we're speaking with filmmaker Soren Sorenson, who has connections to Clark University, and I think some of your colleagues who we are friends with here tipped us off to your documentary film about Omar Sosa, 88 Well-Tuned Drums, which you can see on Monday and Tuesday in the Valley, October 21st and 22nd. And it is about Omar Sosa, who also joins us currently in Italy and soon to be in residency in Florence.
Soren, I have another question about this documentary, just because I think it's an inspired choice and I'm curious about it. But there are scenes that are lodged in memory that are done with animation as opposed to like through photographs. Can you talk about the choice to use animation for those scenes in your documentary?
Absolutely. One of the stark differences between, growing up in Cuba and growing up in, the States, and certainly the differences between being born in 65 and born in 2025, there are not a ton of pictures of Omar, especially from his adolescence, from his college days, from the military, things like that. So I always knew I wanted to have some kind of visual representation for that stuff. And lots of documentaries use animation. So the idea to have animation in here was sort of baked in. I mean, I really wanted to find, a local animation company, and I was able to do so. Floating Pear is based in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, actually. So I got to use a local company, which was great. And they did a wonderful job.
Beautiful.
Apart from the captivating subject, Omar Sosa, the documentary is beautifully done, beautifully shot, beautifully edited, and the animation, all the other accoutrements make it pretty incredible. And again, you can see it coming up October 21st and 22nd in the Valley. Now, two of my favorite parts in the documentary, I'm not going to delve into right now. I'm just going to say, go see the documentary. But remember the part about Omar writing jingles, which I thought was just so delightful. And the part about Omar having to audition for a band in a guitar center in San Francisco. I thought both of those things were really fun and funny.
Like the speed of Omar's career as soon as he got to America was just like kind of astounding. And the guitar center bit is part of that. Like how quickly that went. That's like what, like just over the course of a week, maybe a couple of days, Omar?
Couple of days. It was like 6 days, not even a week.
One thing that gets touched on very briefly in the movie, but that has a lot to do with the residency, and you get to see some clips of your first time together with him, is your partnership with Tim Eriksen, who people from our area know as the front man for Cordelia's dad. We had him on after the death of Steve Albini, the legendary record producer who just recently passed away. He's also famous for his shape note singing, which is this 18th century New England tradition. When you think of Cuban furious piano percussion player, maybe Tim Eriksen isn't the first name that you would think of as a natural pairing for that style of music. So Omar, tell us about how you and Tim got together, how you collaborated before, and what you're excited about with this new residency happening later this month.
Well, I met Tim when he invited me to one of his class in Princeton University many years ago. And when I arrived to his class, he put like almost 200 students singing a drum, low note. Whoa. And he starts singing on top of this. I just cry. I say, what is this? This is a class or this is a mask? Or this, this is the prayer, or we are in a church, what is this? After this, I just jump to the piano without know the song, and I start playing with this big choir and him. And after that, after we finish the class, I say, hey man, we need to do something together. And 1 week later, we was in the Blue Note, New York, and we recorded the record.
Wow.
It's nothing complicated. Managers call somebody and a budget and Sony. No. Simple. Something that comes from the bottom of the heart. It's like the spirit tell us, you need to do something together. And we take the opportunity. And now we want to continue. Why we want to continue? Because we both think our connection is deeper than he born in America and me born in Cuba. It's some spiritual dimension inside of his music and behind of his music, inside of my music and behind of my music can put us together. It's nothing complex what we do. The only thing that we do is listen the voices of the spirit and the ancestors in light and put it out. We don't want to impress. It's no circus. It's no who got the big muscle. No, because today is, today you need to jump to the top of the mountain, jump, and the people say, oh! No. It's contemplative picture. bring people to emotional direction. When we feel something inside, and what we feel inside, the people who listen us is gonna feel. Why? Because it's honest. The poetry of teen is really powerful. Even if my English is funny, I understood really well, and I went to Google to translate, and I cry. When I translate his poetry in Spanish, Mamma Mia. Well, I mean, I'm Italy now. Oh my God! I say, what is this? It's so deep. You know, the picture was so complete that I think it deserves to continue to do a second chapter. I don't know what's gonna happen, but what's gonna happen for sure is gonna be love to put in the table for all of us. Eat love.
And there is going to be a week-long residency where all of this stuff that Omar Sosa is talking about will be fomenting, and it will culminate with a concert on Friday, October 25th with Omar Sosa and Tim Eriksen at Bombyx in Florence. It starts on Monday, October 21st with a screening of Soren Sorenson, the director's documentary about Omar Sosa, 88 well-tuned drums, another documentary screening at Holyoke Media the next day. Both of them have talkbacks with Soren and Omar, and then culminating in a concert at Bombyx. The documentary is inspirational and delightful, and you, Soren and Omar, are inspirational and delightful as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You can find more information on all of Omar Sosa's incredible endeavors in the Valley at bombyx.live.
And next, our neighbors have made a short film to scare us, and they want you to come and watch. Director Wade Wofford gets into the gory details of vestiges next.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
Scarier than vegetables.
Yeah.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering co-op advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop. The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
It's like, the moment you say public access, independent film, I think everyone assumes that it's going to be like going to see your nephew's really bad play at his high school. And you have to sit through it for 2 hours, and it's awful.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. Chicopee TV, Chicopee's public access TV station, has just produced its first short narrative film, Vestiges, made by Singing Bridge Pictures, a grant-funded offshoot of Chicopee TV. The Community Film Club intends to make a short narrative film now every year.
The group is celebrating its very first film with a world premiere at Chicopee TV on October 17th. The screening is open to the public and will feature a Q&A session with the crew and cast. With us to talk about the film and the community effort that made it is director and producer for Chicopee TV and the director of the short film Vestiges, Wade Wofford. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Coming to us live from Starbucks in the parking lot. Filmmaker Wade Wofford.
Almost as good as Jarrett coming to us from the Pike.
Oh, yes.
At the Papagenos.
Yes. Jarrett J. Krasoska, the children's book author, once talked to us from a Papagenos. But
I mean, it was either this or sitting in my car.
Khalees and I have watched this short horror film, 13 minutes long. It's gorgeous. It looks incredible. I mean, I think when people think of community or public access TV, I know I automatically go to Wayne's World.
Wayne's World! Wayne's World! Party time! Excellent!
Between two ferns. You go to Between Two Ferns.
If you didn't have an accent, do you think people would be able to tell that you're not a very good actor?
Yeah, no, I think my accent probably does help. That's true.
No Sherlock.
Yeah.
Quality-wise, the cinematography is gorgeous. Tell us about who was involved and a little bit about why it looks so good, I guess.
Oh my gosh, it was such a cool venture. So I've been at Chicopee TV for 10 years, and it's traditional in public access that you're covering government meetings, you're covering sporting events, and so we offer public access classes, and we have a bunch of gear that users from the public can come in, we can teach them how to use it, and then they can check it out and shoot stuff. And so what we were finding is all of these people would come in and they would take our classes to check out the gear, and then none of them would ever come back and check out the gear. And so we started sort of talking internally about, like, why does that happen? What's the disconnect? And it's like, well, the only thing that you can shoot by yourself is really news. But we were finding that a lot of the people coming through weren't really interested in producing stuff like that. They wanted to make real stuff, and you can't do that by yourself. It requires a crew. So we had started a film club at Chicopee Comprehensive High School, and, you know, we had about a dozen kids, and the purpose of the club was going to be, let's make a short film every year with the club. And, you know, in the fall, they'll conceptualize it. In the winter, we'll teach them how to use the gear. And in the spring, they'll shoot it and post it. And, you know, we got into some sort of bureaucratic red tape of, like, you know, you're shooting a horror film and you need to rent a house and you need to be shooting 8 hours starting at dark, or 12 hours as the case may be. So, you know, you're keeping these 15-year-old kids from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. to film. It started to get a little hairy, and we quickly realized that the film club wasn't the right match. And so we sort of pivoted, and we're like, what if we made like a community film club? And we used the grant money that we got from the Chicopee Cultural Council to produce this film that the kids conceptualized in their first year. So we turned it into a screenplay. We started reaching out to people that had taken our classes and being like, hey, you came through. We were bummed you never came back. Would you be willing to be a production sound recordist? Would you be willing to be a first assistant camera operator? And so we started sort of assigning them tasks of a film set, and everyone said yes. They were so excited.
How long did it take to make this short from when Singing Bridge Pictures started and kind of got the ball rolling?
You know, it's hard to kind of put your finger on that, because by the time Singing Bridge started, we already had the script that we had written to shoot with the students. And then it sort of like blew up in our face. And you know, we had 6 months of sort of floundering as we were trying to figure out, like, ooh, is there a way that we can make this before Singing Bridge came to be? But I mean, you know, walking in, having a script, we sort of started looking at pre-production logistics in February, if memory serves. And then we filmed in early May. And then it kind of sat there for months because we got really busy with graduation season and all the other public access stuff that you're required to do. And then we came back in August and started hitting it hard.
We're speaking with Wade Wofford, who is the director and producer for Chicopee TV, Chicopee's public access TV station, about their premiere horror narrative that will come out next week, October 17th. It's called Vestiges.
Did the kids in the film class at Chicopee Comprehensive always want to do horror? I feel like there's some connection between that age and that genre that just happens.
Big time. So Chicopee TV used to have a couple of classes that we would teach at the high school level. And I mean, my intro to filmmaking class, we would do a section on narrative film, and they would all want to do horror. I think there's something about coming of age that you can be scared without being in danger. And I think that's really appealing to the teenage mind.
Because we're all scared. And so when you can put yourself in an environment where you know you're not in real danger, even if it's something very scary, it's a sense of safety in some ways.
Exactly, yeah.
Wade, tell us, without ruining anything, a little bit of the story of this horror film that you've done with these Chicopee Comp kids, with some of the folks from their now narrative film club through Chicopee TV called Vestiges.
So it's the story of this young woman who's a photographer who comes home one day and there's a box on her front porch, and she opens it up and there's a camera inside, and she sort of recognizes the camera, and she goes into the next room and she looks in her cupboard and she pulls down an old camera bag that's like way, way, way deep in the back, and she opens it up and her camera is missing. And so it's like this camera has been taken out of her house, put into this box and put on her porch like a gift. Then it's sort of revealed that she's been getting multiple of these boxes with various things in them for multiple days.
It was you, right? Leaving the boxes? No? Come on, don't mess with me.
I swear on my mother's life it wasn't me. If it wasn't me, then who the hell could it be?
And so it's kind of about her trying to figure out where the boxes are coming from and what is leaving the boxes or who is leaving the boxes.
It's about the horror of regifting as we head into the holiday season.
That seems like a gross oversimplification, but we'll go.
Exactly.
It is. It's really good with creating the tension, and it's got pretty. What we saw were like really cool special effects. So you're able to do all these things through Chicopee TV too, like taking it to the next level.
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's so amazing. Like so much of shooting a film is about building the right crew. And our crew was incredible. I mean, none of these people had ever been on a film set before. And the way we brought them up is after they accepted their role, we would send them some sort of videos and be like, hey, watch this before your training. Watch this. Be thinking about these things. And then they would come in and we would do 2-3 hour one-on-one trainings with them where we'd be like, okay, this is the piece of gear that you're going to be in charge of. Here's how you use them. Let's play with them a little bit. Let's use them. Let's see where we might slip or make a mistake. And then after we did that individually with each of the dozen crew members, we brought them all together the weekend before the film shot to work together as a team and sort of learn crew calls like, action, reset, return to your one, like all of that sort of like on-set terminology so that we could sort of work together as a team. And man, they learned so fast. In a horror film, there's so much in makeup design, costume design, and like set design, props specifically. Like think about the Conjuring universe is completely built around that Annabelle doll. Think about the props master that had to build that doll and manage that doll on set. And so our props manager, Deb Sutherland, she crushed it in her creation of these props. Like the boxes are beautiful. The props that go in the boxes are beautiful. I mean, really, our crew members really stepped up.
Can you talk really briefly about the importance of community television in this way? Because it feels like Singing Bridge is kind of unique. There's a lot of community outreach to have like classes and things like you were doing at the high school, but I'm not entirely sure that there's something like that for adults and the greater community.
It's something that we at Chicopee TV really struggle with is like, how do you get the community to realize that like, hey, this organization exists to give me access to technology that I probably can't afford, or even if I am a hobbyist, I can't afford at the level that, the public access TV can. We've had a hard time sort of getting the public to understand and come in. And two, it's a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like it's your day off. You're going to go to this TV studio and produce a TV show that, sometimes I think people can be a little discouraged by the number of viewers. You can sort of see like who's watching public access television. What we're trying to do, and really a lot of this inspiration is coming from the libraries. I'm so inspired by how the libraries of the United States have modernized what they offer and how they are like maintaining relevance in 2024 as interest in reading is kind of tanking amongst humans. Just watching the libraries and how they're constantly like reinventing and coming up with new creative programs and initiatives is kind of like, why do we have to be stuck in this world of filming government meetings and sporting events and public events? Like now that filmmaking technology has gotten better and better and better, why can't we start producing some of this stuff, especially since there's a thirst for it? And man, they have risen to the occasion and they are crushing it.
We've seen some great success with Northampton Open Media, which is Northampton's community television. They get all these crowdsourced movies that they've been putting together over the last couple of years. It's really exciting that another local community access town and television station is thinking creatively out of the box, even if that box is wrapped with a yellow bow and left on the front door of somebody's house.
That was impressive.
Whoa,
I see what you did there.
Who's leaving that box there? Are they in the house now? That is the theme of Vestiges, which is the premiere narrative short film, the first of hopefully many, coming out of Chicopee TV with a premiere at Chicopee TV on October 17th.
And I would say that it's like the first of many because right now on the Singing Bridge Pictures page is a scrolling bit that says you're seeking writers and crew for next year's film already.
Yeah, so we've already gotten one grant. We've applied for another. We're anticipating a budget twice the size this year. We're trying to break it out this year. So instead of the crew being the same group that conceptualizes the story, we're trying to find some creative writers in the area who maybe have always wanted to write a screenplay, but have never really had the wherewithal. So this year we're sort of breaking it into 2 parts. And so in December, early December, we're going to be doing a writer's room. We're looking for about 8 writers to fill the room. And we're literally telling everybody, bring a couple of concepts to pitch for short films. We'll sort of hash those out, and we'll create story beats, and that'll be the screenplay that we produce next year with Singing Bridge.
I think it's great.
It is awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Well, I can't wait for everybody to see this first horror movie, the first narrative film, short 13-minute feature out of Singing Bridge and Chicopee TV, the public access station for Chicopee.
It really is beautifully shot.
Yeah, it's gorgeous stuff.
It's free. Yeah, David Farnham, our cinematographer, he was amazing. Joe Audette, our gaffer, was incredible. Such a great team. And worth noting, it's free. The screening is free. There's free coffee and cookies. You can see the Chicopee TV studio for like a half hour. We're going to mingle, and then we're going to head in and watch the movie on the big screen. And then the cast and crew will jump up on the stage, and you can ask them questions if you are like, how the hell do you make a movie?
Even with a cast as small as that, because I think like you really only have like 3-4 people on
actors.
screen. Yeah.
3 actors, yeah. Kayla Staley, our lead, she actually just moved to Louisiana and is totally bummed that she's going to miss the premiere.
Aw.
I think her family is coming, though.
Oh, that's great. Wade Wofford is the director and producer for Chicopee TV, the folks who are behind Vestiges, this horror film that will premiere Thursday, October 17th. Thank you so much, Wade.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure.
This is the cool music from the movie, too.
Yeah, I know. It's such a fun watch.
It really is, and it's really great use of public access TV. Those cameras, my kids do Montague Public Television stuff, and now they've been hired out to go film all these community events. But they have access to those cameras if they ever want to do anything at home. So,
exactly, and it's a really important resource for documenting your community itself, too.
Yes, so. It's an important part of our democracy, but it's also fun to make horror movies
beyond government meetings and sports events.
Absolutely. Well, tomorrow...
That's not all that happens in communities anyway.
That's true. Tomorrow on the Fabulous 413, double music for your Live Music Friday with the homegrown Lucinda Williams tribute that's happening at the Shea Theater and the slightly off-center indie pop of French Cassettes, who you're hearing right now and who are heralding a return of late-night shows to the Iron Horse in Northampton.
Plus, a massive compilation of locally shot movies from the past century is screening at the Triplex in Great Barrington. We'll talk with Adam Rothman and Diane Perlman about Made in Massachusetts and the over 200 films that made the cut for the occasion.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Khalees Smith. We'll see you tomorrow on the Fabulous 413.